Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered a nighttime curfew to curb the spread of the coronavirus while taking a massive pay cut and unveiling tax breaks to ease the economic impact of the crisis on citizens. In a lengthy address to the nation, Kenyatta warned that he would not hesitate to take more drastic measures if Kenyans did not make efforts to limit the spread of the virus, which has sickened 28 in the country already. We're now joined on the line by SABC correspondent Sarah Kimani for an update. Sarah, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to paint us a picture of life in Kenya right now?
It's just 1.5 hours before the curfew takes effect for today, Sunday. Now, today was an interesting day because in a country where most people are used to waking up today and going to church, people have been confined to their homes. Supermarkets closed early, seeing as people are not allowed out after 7 p.m. It would have been a day where families would have been out in the gardens and in hotels and restaurants in Nairobi after church, but that was all not taking place. Instead, in most of the areas, people were at home, in their houses. You could see children playing outside in the estates, but largely life has changed a lot. Also very interesting is that outside every public building or even a shop, a small kiosk, what you find is a little jerry can with running water, sanitizers. So life has changed completely. The Catholic Church Bishop of Nairobi held a service to an empty church, televised across the country in the major broadcasting houses. But that's just about it. It is a quiet day, and now as the curfew time approaches, people are rushing home, so they are not caught in the melee that was seen on the first day.
Do you get a sense, though, that the Kenyans are abiding and adhering to some of these regulations and curfews?
Not quite. I mean, a lot of people were caught out on the first day out in the streets, and indeed there was a lot of criticism against the Kenya police on the following day because a lot of people were beaten and injured, but also because the police seem to have been very enthusiastic to institute the curfew because they started beating people as early as 5 p.m. and this has brought a lot of condemnation. But also, when you speak to a lot of people who depend daily wages, who have to wake up, go either to factories or go to open their market stalls. They're saying that the curfew first is inhibiting their times of doing business, but also they say it is impractical for them because they have to run home and public transportation is now very expensive and it stops early. A public service taxi, which normally would take 14 people, is now only allowed to take 8. And so the public service operators are now increasing, public transport operators are increasing bus fare. Most of them say that there are no jobs for them to be able to earn those daily wages. And yet, when you speak to officials from the government, they do not seem to have a concrete plan on what they're going to do with these 80% of the country's small-scale enterprises or people who work from hand to mouth every day. Take, for example, in Rwanda, we have seen government distributing food parcels and food rations to the vulnerable in the community. In Kenya, we are yet to see that, although volunteers and well-wishers are coming together and putting together care packages for vulnerable communities in their neighborhoods.
And speaking of packages, Kenyans brace themselves for, tough times as an economic shock looms. So has there been any provision in place at all for the day laborers and the informal traders with regards to cushioning them so that they don't feel the impact of this virus?
What the government announced to many looks like it is not meant for them, and also it seems very removed from their daily lives. For example, the government announced that the turnover tax that small traders pay will be reduced. The government also announced that, for example, if you have taken out a loan on the mobile phone, which is very popular among the small traders or people who do informal jobs, that you will not be reported to the Credit Reference Bureau if you're not able to pay. But people are asking, so if I'm not reported to the Credit Reference Bureau for being a bad creditor or a bad debtor, and yet I'm not able to put food on the table for my family, what does it help? A lot of hotels have closed. and a lot of farmers, small-scale farmers, would have been able to sell their produce to these hotels. Major markets in the country have also been closed. Instead of, offering options for safe distancing, or what they're doing is that they're saying that these markets are too crowded and so they must be closed. So a lot of women who actually sell in these markets are also home. So indeed, people are beginning to feel the effects of this prolonged lockdown or curfew, so to speak. But yesterday, the Minister for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, was very clear that the country is very careful not to go into a lockdown proper where nobody leaves the house, because he says, indeed, there are people who depend on daily wages, who must go out and make that 50 rands and be able to come back home with something for the family to eat. So they're trying hard not to close down the country completely. Also realizing that the economic situation in Kenya has been bad for some time now, and probably the reason why the government does not have a proper way maybe of distributing food, or saying giving a voucher for food, or giving some money to the vulnerable, instead allowing them to continue working from 5 a.m. every day to about 7 p.m. when the country shuts down.
President Kenyatta has already taken a pay cut, and his government asked more senior government officials to take a pay cut as well, ostensibly as part of a series of stimulus measures so that the country can be cushioned in a way against the devastating effects of COVID-19. So do we know at this point whether these government officers have already taken a pay cut?
Well, we understand they have, but we will wait to see. Parliament will meet on Tuesday this week, and then they will be able to tell us, they will pass most of what President Kenyatta announced. They will pass it through a vote in Parliament, and that is the only time we'll know also whether members of Parliament and other government officials have indeed taken the pay cut.
Sarah Kimani, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. That was SABC correspondent in East Africa, Sarah Kimani, giving us an update on how the country is dealing with COVID-19.